Another season, another Moto X it seems, only this time bigger, better and even more solid. If you cast your mind back to Phone Show 223, only back in March this year, the original X was seen as a very solid contender, yet the 2014 second gen Moto X is bigger with a 5.2 inch screen up from 4.7, much faster at 2.5 GHz Snapdragon 801 up from 1.7 GHz previous gen chipset, and with a better camera at 13 megapixels up from 10, in theory anyway. Oh, and the design has been beefed up with the material du jour, aluminium, all the way around with a tough frame. The design is very much still sealed, so the 16 or 32 gig internal storage will have to suffice, as will the 2300 mAh battery. Although many places only stock the 16 GB version, which only has a paltry 10 gig free out of the box. For everything you might want to do or install ever, you can use the Motorola website in many countries to order yourself the necessary 32 GB upgrade, i.e. up from 16 to 32 for, in the UK, about £40 extra. I'd argue this is essential for most people. And while you're at it ordering from Motorola, there may well be extra colour and material options which may appeal to you. Me, I'm actually pretty happy here with the soft touch black on the Clove View device. I haven't seen a Nexus 6 in the flesh yet, but in many ways you can think of the Moto X 2014 as a smaller version of that monster device, and more pocketable and comfortable to hold, plus it's cheaper. Front and centre here is the 5.2 inch 1080p AMOLED screen, which is pentile, but you really can't tell, short of using a microscope. Pentile screens do have the advantages of longer AMOLED life, brightness, etc. So I absolutely trust Motorola and Samsung on their imminent Note 4 on this one. It's stunningly crisp and with great colours anyway, and with relatively small bezels, though you do lose some real estate, of course, in most applications because of the virtual Android controls. Below the screen is the only speaker. I'd hoped for stereo given the exact same hardware detailing used at the top of the device. I'm guessing that stereo was planned and then pulled at some point in the design stage because of performance problems. There's simply nowhere near as much space here for an acoustic cavity for a top speaker. Or perhaps the camera module arrived oversized and something had to go. Whatever. The single speaker is still decently loud and of reasonable quality. Any complaints are just me being a bit geeky. Here's the demo. There's full volume. Bit of Manic Street Preachers for you. Space should in fact be something that Moto X 2014 has plenty of, given that the race to thin is being gloriously ignored here in favour of a curved back that fits beautifully in the hand. Oppo and Huawei should take note. This is how to sculpt a smartphone. The Motorola dimple on the back is more pronounced now, but hey, it's somewhere else to grip with your fingers when using the phone. And there's plenty of room for a good camera, or at least a vaguely competitive camera, with apparently the same sensor as in the old Galaxy S4, so 13 megapixels and producing 10 megapixels or so in 16:9. Images are good in good light. And typically troublesome in low light, with no OIS and only dual LED flash. The two LED bulbs are inset in a ring of translucent plastic, but the only significant change is that they're either side of the main camera lens, in theory giving slightly more even illumination, in theory. This is still a long way short of what a real flash can do. I cue my Xenon flash round again. Why? Again, there's plenty of room in the Moto X 2014 for a Xenon capacitor. Shut up, Steve. When shooting video, there's the option to shoot in 4K at 400 megabytes per minute of footage. What is the point, at least on this 16 gigabyte version? Thankfully, the default is 1080p capture, but this is still 130 megabytes per minute. Oh well. There's also plenty of physical room in the curved back, in theory, for Qi wireless charging coils, something I was expecting given Motorola's involvement in the new Nexus 6, but nothing. I'm very sad that Qi was also omitted. The use of an aluminium frame all round is important from the point of view of both the feel in the hand, that's temperature mainly to your fingers, durability, metal trumps plastic, arguably, and usability, in that the power button, also metal, is heavily textured, making it easy to find without looking. But on to usability and operating system. You've heard me rant about how good a Nokia glance screen is on some Symbian and Windows Phone devices, always on time date notifications, and yes, weather here too. Motorola in the Moto X line has at least made an effort along these lines with a glance-style display that illuminates when you wave your hand over the lock screen. And when you pick the phone up as well. It's not quite the same as glance, but there's more interactivity in that when something important comes in, details are shown once you touch the screen, and you can then swipe directly to it from the lock screen interface. Also here now as part of the standard Snapdragon 801 functionality, rather than using custom chips as on the previous Moto X, is an always listening feature, and thankfully the tongue twister OK Google can now be replaced by anything with 4 or more syllables. Keep it clean, of your choice. Surprisingly, it even works in ambient noise or when music's playing in the background. Most things you say other than phone basics kick off Google search, i.e. Google Now, but then this is pretty comprehensive. Often the results are shown visually, but some are audible. You'll be familiar with Google search by now. You do have to wait while the whole phrase gets listened to and then transcribed, unlike native Google search, which just does it as you go. But it does work here. For example, OK Moto X, how tall is the Space Needle?
The Space Needle is 184.41 meters tall.
That was about 11 seconds and rather painful, but I didn't have to touch the phone, so maybe that's an advantage. Motorola describes the UI here as, quote, pure Android rather than, quote, stock. Essentially, it's the familiar Google Experience Launcher plus a few twiddles and a custom application of Motorola's. Motorola Migrate here is exactly what you think it is. It takes your old contacts and calendar from an older phone into your Motorola Moto X. It works with Android phones, iPhones, and also, most importantly of all, in the latest update, old feature phones, which you can bring your contacts in via Bluetooth, of course. Here, just setting up the visibility. Not that anyone watching this will need any help migrating and syncing their data, of course. So the main addition over, quote, stock Android is the voice system. This does have some subtleties which aren't obvious at first. At night, the screen is kept dark, which is ironic because I usually like Android Daydream showing the time in my bedroom while the phone is charging. When driving, i.e. when the phone detects that you're moving and GPS is enabled, there's a talk to me feature, a voice-only mode. In fact, there's the option to do this at home too, presumably in the evening in chill-out mode with eyes closed. Motorola's additions here seem somewhat experimental, but good to see some innovation. Elsewhere, this is a bog-standard Snapdragon 801 powered Android smartphone running Android 4.4.4 and of course Android 5 Lollipop imminent for this Motorola device. 2 GB of RAM inside seems fine, games are fine, browsing is fast and fluid in Chrome, and everything here will be very well known to phone show viewers. It seems churlish to complain too much about the Moto X 2014 since it's clearly really solid, really capable, really fast. But there's no unique selling point. In fact, the most notable thing about it are all the things that are missing. No OIS in the camera, no wireless charging, no stereo top speaker on the front, no access to the battery, no way to expand the possibly paltry 16 gig internal storage. In fact, comparing the Moto X to my beloved here and somewhat battered Galaxy S4 from 18 months ago, screen, performance, camera, speaker, OS, in fact, everything except the fancy voice and active display bits is essentially the same or similar. Yet the older device is half the price and comes with replaceable battery, micro SD expansion and optional Qi charging. It makes you think, doesn't it? Look, I don't dislike the Moto X 2014. It's ubiquitous in many ways and certainly potentially useful if you drive a lot or have a quiet car, or if there's some other reason why you can't always touch your phone. And it's well sculpted in metal here in vanilla form or available through the customizing Moto Maker service in some countries. A decent upgrade for many people across the board, arguably, but it doesn't leap out as a standout device that many people watching this need. I doubt anyone but me is counting, but the phone show is now nearing the end of its 9th year. Yes, I said 9. I was in my early 40s when I started all this. I've said before that when the phone show started, I was the only person in the world, as far as I know, reviewing phones on video, starting in quarter VGA before YouTube was even a thing. In late 2014, with huge competition from a great many younger and, frankly, a lot prettier people, all reviewing everything as soon as it comes out, often in America, I do feel that the video side of the phone show needs to be wound down, or at least start to be wound down. In turn, I should then be able to put more of my time behind the ever more popular audio-only Phone Show Chat podcast, where Ted and I can stay unseen behind our microphones and invite luminaries from the mobile world on to chat and review stuff. If there wasn't a video podcast to create, for example, these typically take about 15 man-hours to put together, I should be able to make extra special episodes of Phone Show Chat in which I take on specific industry figures. For example, you'll have heard my recent hour-long chat with ex-Nokian Damien Dinning. I do welcome your comments and feedback, though. Some of you are even helping out with regular donations, so thank you. What would you like to see happen? Should I head into my 10th year after all? Which would you choose between the Phone Show videos or more audio to listen to? Do please email me.